We are busy with algebraic expressions, and today we are going to look at the addition and subtraction of like terms. So for exercise 8.4, we have to add these polynomials. We are going to look at number 1b, and if we investigate number 1b, we see we have in brackets a minus 15b plus 11c. If we for a moment ignore the brackets, we can see we have one term separated by a minus. We get our second term separated, the second term from the third term, by a plus. So we have a 3 term if we ignore the brackets. Similarly, here to the right, we have a negative 8a. There's no number in front of the negative 8a, so in this case the negative doesn't separate. This is a term on its own. We have a positive separated it from the second term, 17b, and the negative separating it from the third term, the second term from the third term. So we also have 3 terms, which is more than one. So it's a polynomial and a polynomial. Context is here important. In this case, the brackets we put around these terms as an afterthought, just to show that we are adding actually 2 polynomials. So this is quite different than when answering the question, basically how many terms are there in this expression, because if you just look at the number of terms, we know this is one term separated by a plus, everything in brackets is another term, then it would be 2 terms, but that would be a very different context and a very different question. So now that we addressed that, let's do the addition. So basically our first step here is to simply add like terms. So in the first set of brackets, we have a A. We also have a in the second term. So let's group them together. So in this case, we use brackets for grouping. So we have a A and we have plus negative 8a. We know a plus times a minus is a minus. So it's minus 8a. Then if we look at the b's, remember we are adding, we have negative 15b in the first sets of brackets, and we add it to 17b in the second set of brackets. Then we can look at the c's. We have 11c in the first set of bracket, and we have a plus times a minus is a minus, so we are subtracting 11c in the second set of brackets. So now we can simplify what's in the brackets. We have 1a, we owe 8a, we don't have enough, so it must be a minus. The difference between 8 and 1 is 7, so we owe 7a's. Okay, so here we owe 15b's, we get 17, we have enough to pay our debt, plus we have the difference of 17 and 15 remaining, so it's a positive 2b. And then finally we have 11c's, we give away all 11, we have nothing, we won't even write down a positive nothing, so that's by convention. So we can't simplify this anymore because we have a's and b's, they are not the same, they are unlike terms, we cannot add unlike terms. So that's the final answer. So let's just do another one, number C. So in this case, we have negative 4m squared, we have negative 3m squared, we can group them. So we use brackets to group, so we have negative 4m squared, a plus times a minus is a minus, so we have minus 3m squared. Next we look at the m's, we have 7m, Remember, we are adding. So we have 7m. Plus times a minus is a minus, so we have minus 8m. And then finally we look at our numbers. We have plus 8. So we have 8. And now we have a plus times a minus, which is a minus, so we have minus 9. So now let's simplify within the brackets where we are busy with the like terms. So we owe 4m squared, we owe another 3m squared. In total we owe therefore 7m squared. If we look at our m's, we have 7 m's. We owe 8 m's, we owe more than we have. To owe is negative. The difference between 8 and 7 is 1. We don't write the 1, it's an invisible 1. So it's just negative m. And then finally, we have 8, we owe 9, we don't have enough. To owe is negative. We owe the difference between 9 and 8, which is 1. And then we cannot add unlike terms. M squared, m and 1 are all unlike terms. So this is our most simplified solution. So if we look at number 2, we need to now subtract these polynomials. So the only difference is where we had between the brackets in number 1 a positive sign, we have now a negative sign. But if we know how positive and minus multiplication work, it's no problem, because remember, brackets means multiplication. So in fact, we are multiplying this negative with each term inside the brackets. So let's tackle number B. So we have 10x. So let's group our x's together. We have 10x. And now we have a minus times a positive. So minus times a positive is a minus. So we have minus 9x. Next, let's look at our y's. Okay, so we have 12y. And now we have a negative times a negative, which is a positive. So it's 10y. You would notice instead of keeping the minuses in between, I just change it so that we rather use plus. It's just easier to use to work with pluses, as long as we know we need to multiply what's in front of the brackets with what's inside the brackets. So I'm even going to add another plus. And then I'm going to look at the z's. So we owe 8z, so it's negative 8z. And now we have a negative times a positive, which is a negative 2z. And now it's simply a matter of simplifying inside the brackets, which we can do because it's like terms inside the brackets. We specifically grouped it like that. So we have 10 x's, we give 9 away, we have 1 x, we don't even write the 1, it's invisible. We simply write the x by convention. Then we look at the y's. We have 12, we get another 10 y's, we therefore have 22 y's. Finally, we look at the z's. We owe 8 z's. We owe another 2 z's. Therefore, we owe the sum of 8 and 2, which is 10. So we owe 10 z's. So this is the most simplified form because we have now unlike terms. So x is not the same as a y, is not the same as a z. We cannot add them together. We can only add like terms, not on unlike terms. Let's look at another one. Number D. So we see again we have the negative sign, we are subtracting, but that's not much of an issue. We just know we need to multiply that with each term, and we can safely still use pluses. So let's use brackets to group. First the m squareds. In the first set of brackets we have 2m squared. In the second set of brackets we have to multiply now a minus times a minus, which is a plus, so we have plus 2m squared. We are done with the m squared. Let's move on to the m's. So I have negative 6m. We need to multiply the negative by the negative. Negative times negative is a positive, so we have positive 12m. And let's look at our numbers. We have positive 9. We have a negative times a negative, which is a positive 9 in the second set. Now we can simplify inside the brackets because it's like terms. We can add like terms. So we have 2m squareds. We get another 2m squareds. Therefore now we have 4m squareds. If we look at our m's, we owe 6. We get 12. So we will have a positive number of m's. It's the difference between 12 and 6, which is 6. So we have 6 m's. And then finally we have 9. We get another 9. So we have in total 18. This is the most simplified form because m squared is not the same as a m, is not the same as 18. They are unlike terms. We cannot add unlike terms. Now, number 3 looks complicated. We have to subtract 5m plus 6n minus 4p from 8m minus 2n minus 7p. Now, a strategy to use whenever something looks complicated is just to make it simple. So let's change this to something that we know how to do. That's very easy to do. Like subtract 5 from 8. What does that mean? How do we get the answer? Well, I'm sure you will all tell me the answer is 3. How did we get it? Yes, we take the right hand 8, we subtract from it 5. So now that we know the strategy, we can simply do it on the more complicated one. So what do we have to start with? We have to start with this expression. So we have in brackets 8m minus 2n minus 7p. And what did we do? We subtracted this term. So we now have to subtract in brackets 5m plus 6n minus 4p. And now we can do the same as we did in number 2. So we can first group our m's. So we have 8m. A negative times a positive is a negative. So we have negative 5m. We can change the minus into plus. It's just easier to deal with that. We have brackets. We are looking at our n's. So we have negative 2n. A negative times a positive is a negative. So we have negative 6n. And now we can finally look at our p's. We can add. We have negative 7p in the first set of brackets. A negative times a negative is a positive, so we have a positive 4p in our second set of brackets. Now we can simplify inside the brackets because we are allowed to add and subtract like terms. So we have 8m's, we give away 5, we have now 3m's remaining. we owe 2 n's, we owe another 6 n's, so we therefore owe a total of 8 n's. So we owe 7 p's, we get 4 p's, we didn't get enough to take care of our debt, so therefore we owe, debt is bad, it's negative. It's the difference now between 7 and 4, so we owe 3 p's. And this is the most simplified form because M, N and P are all unlike terms. They are not the same thing. They are not like. We can only add and subtract like terms. Finally, let's have a look at number 4. We have to now from x squared plus 7x minus 9 subtract 2x squared minus 3x plus 4. It's slightly different than number 3. So again, let's just make it simple. Let's do something we know. So let's say from 10, you could choose any number, subtract 3. Again, you could choose any number. So from 10 subtract 3. We know that answer is 7. How did we get that? We just say 10 minus 3. So now that we know how to deal with the simple one, it's easy to treat the more complex one. So 10, we first took 10, then we subtracted 3, which is the second term. So we subtract term 2 from term 1. So let's just do it. So term 1 is this term. So let's just write it down in brackets. And we subtract. What do we subtract? Term 2, which is 2x squared minus 3x plus 4. And now again, it's the same situation as in question 2. We are subtracting, but we can easily change this to pluses. So we first group like terms, so we have a x squared. In the second bracket, we have a negative times a positive, which is a negative. So we have negative 2x squared. We plus, because we said we can, to keep things simple, just change the minus in the plus. So we look at our x's, we have a 7x, a negative times a positive is a positive. So we have positive 3x. Finally, let's look at our numbers. So we have a negative 9 in the first set of brackets. We have a negative times a positive, which is a negative 4 in the second set of brackets. So now we are allowed to simplify inside the brackets as we are dealing with like terms. We can add and subtract like terms. We have 1x squared, we owe 2, we don't have enough. So therefore we owe more than we have. It's negative. The difference between 2 and 1 is 1. We don't write the 1. It's an invisible 1 by convention. So we have negative x squared. So if we look at our x's, we have 7. We get another 3. We have now more. We have a total of 10 x's. And finally, we owe 9, we owe another 4, we owe more, we owe 9 plus 4, which is 13. X squared, x, 13, they are all different. They are what we call unlike terms. We cannot add or subtract unlike terms. We can only add or subtract like terms.